Hello, this is Mike as always, and welcome to the UFC Boise fight reaction. Let's run through this real quick. First and foremost, the main event, we have Junior Dos Santos running through Grigory Ivanov and a lopsided, one-sided decision. He picked him apart, even though he got marked up in his signature way, with his eyes being marked up quite a bit. Dos Santos easily won this fight. I don't remember what the official scores was, but I had it as an easy 50-45. Um, uh, Ivanov, I think, was succumbed to the pressure of the UFC debut, and that hindered his performance based on what we've seen out of him in the past. The big Bulgarian wasn't able to do anything more than land a couple of significant strikes. Uh, what's next for either guy is up in the air. Ivanov will probably get a second go. Well, there's no real doubt he'll get a second go of some sort in the company. With Junior, though, he could easily get matched up for a third fight with Stipe after Stipe's recent loss to Daniel Cormier last week. I would think that Dos Santos versus Miocic 3 is on the horizon. It's not really another likely candidate unless you want to throw Black Beast in there against Junior Dos Santos, because though it was lackluster against Ngannou, he did try, unlike Ngannou, to do something in the fight while nursing a back issue. Earlier in the night, we have Kat Zingano getting her first win since, I believe, 2014, when she beat now current bantamweight champion Amanda Nunes. She went about it in a more conservative fashion. She held her down at every end, and her opponent, Marion Renault, relied way too heavily on her Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She even pulled guard at 2 different times in the fight. But Kat just kept following her hips whenever she tried to create some distance to go for a submission, and landed just enough strikes to stay busy, to stay in the position on top of her in Renault's open guard to a unanimous decision victory. Good on Kat. That the Unknown Experts were huge Alpha Cat fans. So I know my boy Mook is happy about that. She's back in winning ways. Hopefully in her next fight she'll go back to taking risk. Maybe we'll see that fisherman suplex slam she does. But after losing 3, she couldn't have chanced that. So I think it was a good move being conservative here. Super Sage, Northcutt, love him or hate him. Guess where I stand on it. But he came out victorious against Zach Ott, and it looks like his move to welterweight was a smart one. He's wearing the weight well. It's not hindering him in any way. He's not slower. He was immediately taken down at the start of the fight, and was able to keep his composure, not get hurt or submitted. Got to his feet, because as soon as he was taken down, he was basically in an arm triangle position, and he even got clipped early on as well, with a right straight that literally made him go cross-eyed, and he weathered that storm. And he eventually stayed in there, pushed the pace, kept on, pushed him against the fence, eventually TKOing him. Chad Mendes made his return after a 2-year steroid suspension against Miles Jury, and really made the most of it. Chad was blatantly different sized. I mean, there's pretty clear evidence that he must have been on the juice for most of his time in the UFC, and had just figured out a way to fucks with USADA. I mean, we've talked about it at length before on the Unknown Experts and on this show, but there's ways around everything, and there's guys that are definitely have their methods, and he was clearly one of them based on how much smaller he came in. And I mean, it's probably for the best. I mean, he doesn't have the chin that he once did after getting clipped by Connor and Edgar. So a faster and more explosive Mendez tucking his chin could do some serious stuff. I mean, he could automatically be in the top 5 with the state of the current featherweight division. He landed a left hook on Miles Jury that dropped him, followed him to the ground, and pounded away. It was one of those situations where you could either say it's an early stoppage or a pressure stoppage. Pressure stoppage meaning that he punched Jury in the arms about 30 to 50 fucking times until the referee stopped the fight. And the reason I stress that is because Jury at one point, while getting punched in the arm he was covering up with, almost got to his feet, but sort of slipped, or maybe the force of the hits to his arm, that's probably the force of the hits to his arm forced him back to one knee, and the ref promptly stopped the fight. He was clear-headed in there after the fact, but like I said, a pressure stoppage. Let's see, other feature bouts of the night, you have Rob Font getting a split decision. You've got Nico with an impressive hammer fist TKO win earlier in the night. Other than even the fighting, we have Stylebender Israel outside the cage drinking what appeared to be either a rum and coke or like a Jack and Coke. I don't even know if they sold those at UFC events, cage size, when he stood up and saluted the last mentioned fight here, the Elkins versus Volkanov fight, where Elkins did the usual, got the shit kicked out of him, but was unable to do his usual trademark third round rally comeback. Stylebender stood up and saluted them while having a drink. All in all, a decent card. Main event was a real tilt, one-sided. JDS, like I said, JDS will probably have Stipe up next for a third go. Makes the most sense. I mean, I don't know who else in the heavyweight division makes more sense, especially since you got Volkov coming off the Weirden win, and now being at the back of the line, even with the UFC going to Russia in September, where we all thought at one time it would make the most sense. If Stipe gets past DC, we'll get Stipe Volkov in Russia, perfect fit for the Russian. But now as DC's the heavyweight champion, and immediately called out Brock Lesnar for that freak show money grab fight, which again, it makes very little sense, because the move should have been that we all thought it was going to be, and we talked about on the Unknown Experts, to have Lesnar come back to fight John Jones at heavyweight if DC won, and then the winner to face DC. That way you could still get DC versus Lesnar, or you get DC Jones 3 for the heavyweight belt. The only way that fight ever makes sense, to have a third go at it. But I digress. It was a so-so card. I think the next one we got coming up is Shogun versus Smith, and a little after that is Poirier and Alvarez, and Joanna versus, I believe, Andrade. So stuff's going to be an interesting go for the rest of the month, before we even get the UFC 227, which they're smartly advertising. I don't know why it took so long, using Marilyn Manson's The Fight Song, which is always the best soundtrack for a fight commercial. I mean, the WWE used it for pro wrestling back when that song came out in 2001, and it worked then. It worked for every fight. They aired it last night for the first time to advertise TJ defending the newly won bantamweight belt against the guy he beat, Cody No Love, in their near immediate rematch, as with the co-main event of the flyweight champion Demetrius Johnson with a second defense against Henry Cejudo. I don't see how Henry has grown in any way where that fight's gonna go any different. Mighty Mouse is gonna beat that poor guy yet again, and it just shows you how good the Mouse is, man. Mouse is going to get him with some sort of new fancy mousetrap of some sort, or wait till the last minute to submit him, because he's already got the quick knockout over him, so he's got to do something of style to keep interest in that division. and to silence the talks of, oh, you got to move up or no one's going to give a shit about you. So who knows, maybe since they're both fighting the same night, maybe DJ and Cody or TJ, because that's a toss-up, whoever comes out victorious in that fight will call out one another, and that'll set up the next super fight. Because like I said, second Conor won the second belt and was a champ. I told you guys that we get at least 2 more champs because of the way WME works. William Morrison Endeavor, the new owners of the UFC, it's bound to happen. So most likely it's going to be one of those guys, whoever moves up or down in weight to challenge that champion is going to get a shot at being another double champion. Something that was unheard of 2 years ago will now happen, maybe for a third time. But anyway, this has been the UFC Boise reaction. This is the Blue Corner. I'm Mike, as always. Thanks for listening. One love and peace out.